today's video is something to do with what I'm standing under. Four-wheel drive tarps that come off your side of your vehicle. So you can get these in many different brands. There's the Drifta Stockton, ARB, Ridge Riders, even Kings, TJM's, very popular accessory for four-wheel drivers. But they got one problem, they suffer really bad from pooling. So a company I'm really good friends with, and they sent me up a product. It is manufactured here in Australia. Okay, so it's from Drifta. You know how I love Drifta products. So don't worry, my reviews are always honest, even if I get the products for free. So this one, yes, I did get it for free. Yeah, probably wondering what it is. Okay, if you look straight down there, you'll probably see it's got a bit of a curve. All right, now you know how I mentioned the problem with these is they pool water. So if it rains, it's actually I'll tell you a bit of a story. The first time I ever owned one of these is not that long ago. So I used to always use your traditional tarps, rectangular tarps, with about a dozen poles. Yeah, I used to carry all that. And ropes, goodness knows how many ropes. And boy, was it an effort to set up, particularly when you camped on your own. So I finally went out and splurged on one of these one day. And it was from here in Australia, from Super Cheap Auto. So it's one of their Ridge Rider ones. And they're not bad, guys. The Ridge Rider are actually not bad. So, that's just a can of Coke just fell down. And my bird, he didn't fall down. He's just having a crack up because the can fell down. I knew they had a problem with pooling. And everyone just says, oh, you know, just drop down the corner. And I did. I dropped down the corners down. And I thought they were down low enough. So we had a storm that night, and I slept through most of it. But I got up, very casual, and this was at a caravan park. And I got up, unzipped, I walked out, and I'm not kidding, this thing here, and it was about the same size as this, so I think it was 2.5 by 2.5 metre. This thing here had a bow in it that was like this. There had to have been 300 litres of water at least in it. I couldn't believe, I mean, that was all bent. One of these was snapped, but it was still holding up. And do you think I could get the water out? Of course it was damaged. So eventually I managed to get the water out. But I think I had to cut it. So when the water was released, it was like a tidal wave, just a big tidal wave just went right through this caravan park. So that was my first experience. And I was so pissed off. So I went then and bought a King's one for the price. But it didn't last long. I wasn't very happy with it, so I'm not going to go over it. And that's when I came upon Drifta. I went and bought that Drifta 270-degree awning that's made by Super Peg under specs for Drifta. I went and bought them up at the Drifta Brendale store when Tofty used to run it there. And that was my first experience of Drifta, the first product I bought. That was probably about 3.5, 4 years ago. I think that's probably nearly 4 years ago. Now I've still got that. So as you know, if you saw me other videos, I'm just trying out different setups now, particularly of our hot summer months and that coming. And that beauty, that hexatarp, that's a game changer for me. I love that. Now, Drifta came up with a solution. Now remember, these fit all of your type of, as long as they're 2.5 metres long. I don't know if they're made, okay, you can be shorter, you can get them for 2 metres long. You can see how short it comes down to, all right? You can see how short that is. I don't know if you can get them for those 3 metre tarps that come out. But to be honest, my personal opinion, I did own one of those 3 metre tarps, and I wouldn't get one again. I think they're just too long. You imagine extending this extra metre here, and you got this material, and it's really hard, even if you drop down the pole as low as you can, and the rains come down heavy enough, which is what I think happened that night when all that water pooled, even though I got that tarp down. It just couldn't shed the water off quick enough. And the water came down so quick, it just gradually got heavier, heavier, stretch, and poof, away it goes. That King's one that I purchased after the Ridge Rider one collapsed. So I purchased that before I knew anything about Drifta. I wasn't aware of the Drifta company at the time. And I purchased that, and it actually stretches even more. I noticed that it stretches more. And I had a hell of a time trying to keep the water off that from pooling. It got to a point if I knew there was a storm coming, I had to just fully dismantle it. So Drifta's came up with this. The bar itself is made by Super Peg. So Drifta's got these in, and they've done a really cool mod on this. You're probably wondering what this cable is sitting here on the end here. So see, it's got a power cable here. Okay, if you can see that, hopefully that's focused on that. If I put my hand there. Alright, so it's got a power cable here in the end. Okay, so that power cable, you might see a hint there. I'll move up close. Okay, can you see that? So we'll pull this out. That's got a light built in. LED light. Alright, so see that? How brilliant is that? So what Drifta's done, they got one of their staff members that I believe pretty much just about works full time on routing. They put a router out a groove through here, and they get one of these lights, LED lights, and glued in place. I don't know, I presume they're glued in place. So it's fully waterproof light. So you got no problems. And it's 2 colours, it's the white and the orange colour. So the orange is brilliant when there's a lot of insects around. And up here in Queensland, there's always a lot of insects around. So how cool is that idea? So that's one of the big advantages of this if you purchase it from Drifta. Now how does this work? So this goes right into the end there. Okay, and then over here, I don't know if you can see it, but just there's a hole that we drilled in there. So any of your tarps like this, they don't come with these holes. So you just want to drill a little hole in there, big enough for that to go through. So what we're going to do is just feed that through. It goes in the hole, pull it tight, and just crimp this up. And that's it. Now I don't know if you noticed that already. And notice how it's made this nice big bow there. So that's going to help to shed a lot of water off these type of tarps when it rains, and it makes quite a big difference as well. So what we might do shortly is we'll grab a hose. Now I haven't dropped these poles down at all. I suspect if the rain's heavy enough, we'll still might get some pooling just over along here. Okay, so I think you still might have to drop those poles down, but you won't need to drop them down as far as what you normally would if you didn't have this. So we've probably got about, I don't know, what do we have there? Probably about 1 foot, maybe just over 1 foot runoff there. So it's about a foot lower at the front than it is at the back. And that water is just running straight off that tarp. It's just beading straight off that tarp. And it's not pulling anywhere. Now I guarantee if I didn't have that curved centre bar in there, that will be pooling in the middle by now. So the water's running off that, no problems at all. So here you go. I reckon that worked pretty good. So I reckon I could have even had that front end a bit higher as well. You definitely want it angled down still, even with the curved pole, but certainly you don't have to have as much angle as what you normally would if you didn't have that curved pole in there. I'm still able to access under here, no problems at all. There's still plenty of room, even if it's pissing down rain, which sometimes it does. I mean, up here in sunny Queensland, when it rains, guys, it rains. It comes down, and usually accompanied with a lot of wind. I think it's a brilliant idea. Now, all you got to do is just get like a little dimmer switch, or just plug that in straight to a battery of some sort to get the power to those LED lights, and they're positioned in such a spot where it's just perfect. If you want your little table set up just over here along the front, and the light just lights up perfectly in that area there, so you don't have to carry separate lights with you. And another good thing about curved light bar I want to mention to you is it actually stores in with the tarps when you roll them up. You can store them inside there, and they store inside the bag. So I've had mine stored in there the whole time, ever since I've had this installed onto my vehicle about 3 weeks ago, nearly 3 weeks, actually 3 weeks tomorrow. 3 weeks tomorrow when I went to the Drifta store at Brendale. Actually, talking about Drifta store at Brendale, the Brendale store has closed down. That doesn't mean the Drifta Brendale store's closed down. That doesn't mean Drifta's closed down their Brisbane store. They've relocated to Slacks Creek, which is not too far from IKEA, near the Logan area. So it's about halfway in between Gold Coast and Brisbane, which is a brilliant location. And I got an awesome building. I went down last week and checked it out. I had to go down there and met up with Luke. It was great catching up with you again, Luke. It's been a while since I've seen you in person. So it's great to catch up with you. And you too, Darreny. I hope I got your name right, Darreny. Brilliant seeing you again. And it's great to meet your new little pup, although it's not so new anymore. It's not a pup anymore. But what a happy little dog that one is. What's a Drifty? Drifty, is it? I think it's called Drifty. She's a little cutie. I love dogs, I love pets, love animals. So yeah, you don't have to store these inside your trailer or four-wheel drive. These just store in the bag that your awning's in, and there's plenty of room for it. At least for the Drifta Stockton one, there's plenty of room in there. So thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe. Tick on the little bell icon, that notification, and sends you a notification to all the videos. So as soon as I put a new video out, you get notified, so you won't miss any. I got a few videos coming up I'm working on. One's to do with the iCamper. It's going to be some cooking videos. And it also will be, of course, some other videos on these wonderful Drifta Stockton and Drifta gear. Because I love this gear. I think all this Drifta gear is quality gear. And we're supporting an Australian company too. Remember that, Drifta, supporting an Australian company. Drifta's a company that makes a lot of this own gear. Drifta Stockton is a separate part, it's a separate company to Drifta, where they get their gear imported, and it's mainly gear that cannot be manufactured in Australia. Well, let's say it probably could, but will you be willing to pay 3-4 times the price? So unfortunately, there's just some products here in Australia we cannot do without, and they cannot be made here in Australia, and they have to be made overseas. Same as your BCFs, same as your Ridge Riders, all those brands. Super Cheap Auto. A lot of their products are all made from overseas. So just remember, we still are relying on some countries overseas. I won't mention which ones. I mean, my iCamper rooftop tent, that's made overseas, but that's made in South Korea. So there's a lot of good stuff that comes from South Korea. Okay, there's still a lot of good stuff that comes from South Korea. And also, in saying that, it's been about 6 months since I've put up any videos on the iCamper. So I'm going to do some updated videos on how I got that set up now. So there's a few changes in the last 6 months, in particular with the bedding, how I got the bedding set up and so on. So I've changed it slightly, okay, to how you saw it before. Yeah, we won't talk too much about it now. I'm gonna do some videos on the iCamper in the next few days. I'm just waiting. We've got a bit of a heat spell coming through at the moment. I'm just waiting for that heat spell to drop down a bit, so it's a bit more bearable to be outside to film. I mean, this is great because I've got this awesome awning here, and then I've got the water on top there. That's nice and cool as well. So it's quite pleasant. There's a bit of a nice breeze coming through. So it's an awesome setup, guys. Till next time, look after yourselves, eh? And it's the first day of summer here, so it's the 1st of December 2020, up here in beautiful sunny Queensland. And I'll tell you what, it's let us know it's summer too. It's very hot and humid here today. Whew. So please subscribe, it'll help my channel a lot. And till next time, cheers.